So here's what a strong EB-1A profile looks like. This is a common question I get all the time. What does a strong EB-1A profile look like? And in this video, I will present to you what it actually means to have a strong EB-1A profile. And for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Jason and I work with several top immigration lawyers, which is where I get my EB-1A profile building insights from. I also run a paid newsletter for $12 per month, which gives you access to my profile building opportunities database, which currently lists over 400 profile building opportunities for EB-1A, EB-2NW, and O1 for many different fields. As part of my newsletter, you will also get access to my private group, which gives you access to a group where members have been able to find co-authors for papers, have been able to find other profile builders to work with and to collaborate on for profile building opportunities, and have also been able to land speaking opportunities based on opportunities shared by other members. If you're interested in these resources and shortening the amount of time it takes for you to build your profile, check out the link in the comments. But going back to the topic at hand, what does it mean to build a strong EB-1A profile? Well, that requires you to first understand what an EB-1A profile looks like and what it means to have a strong profile. So, what is an EB-1A profile? This is what an EB-1A profile typically looks like. So everyone knows that there are two stages to the EB-1A evaluation process. There's the 3 criteria threshold, and then there's final merits. Where an EB-1A profile starts is usually in the anchor criterion. So this is usually leading or critical role, or original contributions. Then you have the 2, 3, or 4 other criteria, or maybe even 5, that you're claiming outside of leading or critical role. So you have judging, you have authorship, membership. These tend to be the typical ones, and then there's high salary too, but I'm not going to list that out because it's not really one you can profile build for. But these tend to be the ones that industry professionals try to claim, try to work towards. So given the anatomy of this kind of profile, what does a strong EB-1A profile then look like? A strong EB-1A profile shows how you have risen to the top of your field. It presents an argument for how you have risen to the top of your field. And where that argument usually starts is in the anchor criterion, because it's something that is usually, say, a job or occupation you've had for many years, 10, 20 years. And it's based on that you present your strongest evidence. So a strong EB-1A profile tends to start with the anchor criterion because it's about presenting your strongest evidence first. And it tends to be the strongest evidence that you present as part of your EB-1A profile. Now, this is where the divergence starts. This is where there starts to be a divergence between the decent EB-1A profiles and the very strong ones. For the strongest EB-1A profiles, these criteria reinforce the anchor criterion. So what do I mean by that? What does it mean to reinforce the anchor criterion? What I mean is that these activities, the judging activities you do, the authorship activities you do, the membership activities you do, all contribute to the argument that you've risen to the top of your field by showing that you have a level of expertise that shows that you have risen to the top of your field. Because that is what the anchor criterion is about. It's about showing that you have a high level of expertise. Now, to reinforce this part of your profile, you need to have these activities then say the same thing about you. Say that you have risen to the top of your field. Say that you have a level of expertise that makes you a top professional in your field. So you need to have the anchor criterion say that you've risen to the top of your field. And then you need to have the other criteria reinforce the anchor criterion, show that you have risen to the top of your field, and then have everything reinforce the overall argument that you've risen to the top of your field. So to make this just more concrete, And to make this just more concrete, what do I mean by that? What does it mean to have a judging activity reinforce the anchor criterion? For example, you get invited to peer review for a conference. It is one of the top conferences in your field and you were invited because of your high level of expertise. That is contributing to the argument that you have a level of expertise as represented by your critical role that overall indicates that you've risen to the top of your field. You are being recognized for that expertise. It is because of that expertise that you are getting this top peer review opportunity. You can say the same thing for authorship. You were invited to co-author a paper. Why? Because you have a level of expertise that you have already shown in your critical role argument. Same for membership. You were invited to an advisory board. Why? Because you have a level of expertise that is so high that you were invited for this prestigious opportunity. That is essentially what you're saying. When your activities that you do for judging, authorship, and membership contribute to your anchor criterion and overall reinforce the argument that you've risen to the top of your field. That is what the strongest EB-1A profiles look like. All the evidence presented overall contributes to this argument that you've risen to the top of your field, whereas the decent and viable profiles, they just have activities that don't really indicate that the person has risen to the top of their field. They might have done this run-of-the-mill judging opportunity, authored this paper in a no-name journal or a no-name publication, or joined a board that no one has ever heard of, or they can't show through their board membership that they've actually been doing substantive work in their field. That is where the difference lies between a strong EB-1A profile and a decent EB-1A profile. I'm not saying that a decent profile won't work. It could still work on the basis of your anchor criterion. I'm just saying that this is what the distinction is between a strong EB-1A profile and a decent EB-1A profile.